Let's circle back to Nigeria's NGX now. Let's look at the performance, assess what's going to happen after the holidays, and see if the NGX is going to hold up very well to investors and shareholders' expectations. Joining us now, Ambrose Omodion, Chief Research Officer, Invest Data Consulting, for this discussion. Ambrose, happy Good Friday, and thank you for joining us. We've seen the market performance so far. The NGX closed yesterday in the green, 0.37%, but however, for the week, it fell 0.32%. What is your assessment of the performance of the market so far for the month of April? Looking at month to date, we see it down 3.3%. Year to date, also, well, year to date, hanging on to 1.3%. Ambrose, what would you say? How would you assess the market's performance in April?
Yeah, I would say that for the month of April, we have seen a mixed market, as markets also react to what is happening globally. But one thing is that our market is not following the trend we are seeing globally, because companies on the exchange have performed impressively for 2024, and that trend is likely to continue in 2025. That is why all eyes are still on the first quarter earnings report for many quoted companies. And also for the ones that are declared dividend, we are seeing also markdown also affecting the market trend. So the previous day after yesterday, we saw that the high caps companies, especially the first-tier banks, were marked down. That also reflected the index. The index closed lower, breaking down the 1,400,000 mark. For me, it's just that the market is still oscillating. But the good thing is that the month of April in Nigeria market is a month that investors prepare for the full half year or first quarter or first half of the year. Why I say so is that if you look at the trend before now, as from the month of January, we saw market for the past 6 years looking up because people are preparing for the dividend payment, which comes to in the first quarter of the year, which is the peak of any season in Nigeria. But the first quarter of any financial new year gives an investor an insight on what to expect in that current financial year. And on the exchange of Nigeria Stock Exchange, we have many companies that had the same bar as year end, that investors are going to see their first quarter scorecard to see how this company is going to perform, especially if they are following the trend we saw in 2024, where we are seeing a better number compared to the previous year, and that will give the insight where we are going. And at the same time, what is happening globally? Yes, we know that Nigeria has been now with about 14% tariff, but we say that this is also a plus for us. If the government and the its economic managers will sit down and look at what area can we develop to make that we become self-reliant in some areas that we import less, and at the same time we start exporting, that will be good for us. But as I said, the ongoing either call it tariff war or trade policy of the US is for many companies to be made, and at the same time also to be mined. That means that it's an opportunity for companies to look inward and do better to drive their own economy. That means the monetary policy and fiscal policy have to come forward and tank together to make sure that they are pushing their economy. And that is why I'll start this way. If you look at the macroeconomic data that has come so far in our market, it's pointing to some the direction. Yes, after the rebase of the GDP and the rebase of inflation figure, we saw positive GDP have consistent. But for inflation, we saw that after two months of positive or kind of slowing down or disinflation, what we want to call it, we saw that the last one that came recently, we saw a change. And that will signal if the next MPC meeting that's coming in May, whether there'll be rate cut or not. But for me, if you are using this alone to determine your rate cut or a low limit on change again, that means we are not doing Nigeria the proper service as economic managers. Why? Because we are seeing that our exchange rate that have been pretty stable has turned, we are seeing some volatility again this period. That also we are seeing that it's also eating into our reserve. But good thing is that according to CBN, our reserve is solid. If that is true, that means that we need to drive the home economy, which is our own economy internally, with good policy that will encourage Nigeria to do more business that will drive the economy. But on the side of high cost of funds, which you say, yes, we are managing inflation. Inflation have also been there before the rebates. Now, what the purpose of the rebates? I believe that what we should do now, already yesterday we saw that, we saw that Dangote refinery I also put down price from almost $9 to about $8.90 again. This oscillation in that fuel price also will impact our transportation with the cost of moving goods from one place to the other. But I believe that the economic managers should look inward and make policies that will drive the economy. That's why every investor in the market, looking at the month of April, which is we're going to look at like an outlook between now April or May, we should know that this is the time for investors to target where fund is flowing to. Yes, is government coming to raise more money on a high interest rate in the bond market? If that would be a kind of a disservice of equity market, or if there is also high interest rates from the monetary policy, that will be also a disservice to the equity market. But if we saw another we see another either remain unchanged in terms of interest rate or decline, that would be a plus for the market. Also, we see that government is not rushing also to raise funds either globally or locally in terms of hiking the yield or the rate to borrow from either from fixed income market or treasury bill. That also will determine where the market will go. For me, every investor or trader to look at the numbers that are coming. We have seen two numbers that came from that came from the first quarter. We saw one from Geregu, we saw one from Nigeria Brewery. The one from Geregu tell us that yes, this number is missed, but what we saw, the one from Nigeria Brewery, give an insight that we might see a turnaround in consumer goods because we are seeing that their loss or that was caused by exchange rate is definitely becoming a bit stable. We might see positive number from that industry. For me, all eyes should be on first quarter to give us insight where the market will go in this April and the rest of Q2.
Okay, you just mentioned some of the macroeconomic factors that have influenced investors' decisions, buy or sell. But we've seen the all-share index. Well, we've seen the month-to-date negative territory. Is this historically correct for the month of April? And if not, what do we expect for stocks? We talked about Nigerian breweries, which has turned around. For the first time, they're posting a positive in the first quarter of the year against what they posted in 2023. What do you expect for these stocks? Which stocks, in your opinion, should investors be looking at to be hedging against many of what we're going, because we're going to be having the rebasing coming soon, and we're going to be seeing that reflection maybe in the numbers. Are investors still going to be looking at stocks in consumer goods, especially with food inflation maybe not tapering as much as we think it is right now?
Yeah, like we just said, food inflation was a bit better compared to other indices after releasing the figure. But I'll still tell you that we are seeing stability in the FS market before now. That has supported what we are seeing in the result of Nigeria Brewery. If that continues, that means most of those companies in that sector are going to see a better Q1. And don't forget that, if you look at their fourth quarter 2024, despite most of them posted a negative number, but their fourth quarter for that 3 months was also positive. That is, it's a trend that, yes, we are seeing a turnaround in the consumer goods. That means this is the time for investors that are designing or traders to start positioning in that kind of industry now, because we see that if there is stability going forward in our efforts, but what is happening globally, if after 90 days there's no solution, that will also trigger. But if they're able to come to a round table and the about 75 or 80 countries that have come to that negotiation table, we're able to arrive, that will be a plus for us. That yes. And also, like I just said earlier, that if our fuel prices, that this is the major thing that cause inflation, because services also need to move your one place to other, and also goods from one place to other. That means if we can see stable also related in fuel price, we start seeing them either around 800 naira or lower. That would be better. We are seeing from goods about 900 and something back to 890. Good one. But if that continue in the south direction, that's a plus for inflation figure, also for the economy. But I believe that for investors, this Q1 number is what will determine where the market. But I believe that this is the right time for investors to buy into value, because markets are pulled back from as high as 109,855 to almost below 104. Now back to that. That means markets are giving us enough room to buy into value because prices have pulled back and yields of many companies are up because of what prices have gone down, and we are seeing better dividend and earnings in the market.
Okay, so for Nigerian breweries, the turnaround we're seeing, is FX no longer a challenge for the company?
We've seen it's still there, but we have seen a lot of drop in that FS issue. That means in second quarter, if continue, that means stability has come. But they will still, compared to what we saw in 2024 first quarter and this 2025, the FS loss has dropped significantly. That would be a plus for the company.
Okay, so what is your outlook for the next week? Does this send a signal as to how the rest of the quarter is going to end? Especially now we are still in negative territory. Month to date, year to date is just 1.3%. How do you see the markets, the all-share index, ending this quarter?
No, for the month of April in the history of Nigeria market is up and down, as a trend. Why? It depends on market sentiment and also macroeconomy in within that month. Why I say so that in the month of March, where companies are declaring, it is April, you see a lot of companies, paying, their dividend, doing their markdown, and that also affect the month of April. But it depends how number of companies that will pay in this May. If they are paying this April, and people are also reinvesting that one, that will support the market to go. But look, I said because of the Q1, if Q1 come positively, most of the institutional investors that are sitting on the fence are coming back to the market to position for the year, knowing that in the next 90 days, that was started ready to see the outcome of what the negotiation table they are coming around in global markets as regard the tariff. If also come out positively, our markets also kind of not following that trend, exactly that is going on. That means because of companies on the exchange have done well before now, and Q1 coming to beat expectation as well, what prices are seen on Q1, that also tell us. But for me, I believe that the next week market one should be a market that will start looking up. But for the month of the April, toward the end of the month, that last week of the month of April, because of the positive number that is likely to come, let me just likely because we have not seen the number, but I believe that nothing has changed in terms of macroeconomic data. We're going to see a better number compared to what we saw in 2024. I will tell you that for free for now. But I believe that when the market reacts to those numbers toward the end of the month of April, this negative territory we're seeing the month might likely turn up to no. I tell you that if market came for 2 or 4 days in the last decreasing of month of April, we're going to see a turnaround. But I tell you that this month presents a lot of opportunity for investors to buy into value. I will tell you that for free. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ambrose Omodion, Chief Research Officer, Invest Data Consulting, for your perspective on Business Incorporated.
Thank you for having me.